gonna I'm gonna explain finances and budgeting 101. This people should know. Okay, this is exempting people who live below the poverty line. If you're living below the poverty line, there's not much you can do. Hopefully you can find a stable, and the very least minimum wage job for you to be able to work out until you can save up enough money so you can purchase or rent without like too many problems. Right? I mean, I think the best thing you can do is either live with your family so you can save up money for at least a mortgage, or probably like enough for a very small property such as an apartment or a condominium if they're building new buildings during the time that you have enough money for it. Okay, so if you are starting a business, this is the difference between business and personal. So every single penny that you spend for training your employees, restocking your place of business, ordering supplies for your business, training people to do those things outside of your personal um, direct employment. So like if I was running a cafe and I had like 3 employees, but I need like shipment delivered there, so I have to pay for extra postage and shipment and stuff like that. That also counts towards your business expense, not your personal expense. So anything to do with your business, to continue to run said business, whatever business is that you're running, is your business account. Okay, that's your business expense. Any money that you generate from your business is from your business. And from that, you're supposed to be able to replenish or afford better things to run said business. If you are lucky, by the end of the year, you'll have a little bit left over and you can use that for savings or your own personal thing. Or if you're really nice, you probably get your employees some bonuses or something like that. Like that's business 101. Okay, yeah, you're gonna have to, like, if you can't afford employees, you're gonna actually have to do the work yourself. So you're gonna be stressed out. You're gonna have to, like, I don't know, find a way to see if there's any possibility for you to be able to, I don't know, keep it running manually. It's hard. That's why a lot of people don't understand is that, oh, I can't currently afford to have 5 employees. What do I do? Unfortunately, you're gonna have to make do with how much you can afford and do the rest yourself. So that means you're gonna be at like whatever business you're at for most of the time, all the time. Okay, in Canada, this is how pensions work. So anytime a person makes money, right, and this is outside of employment insurance, so if you are generating an income, and also you have been a citizen, so since the moment that you're granted your citizenship, the government accounts for the years that you were a citizen. And then the minute you hit 65 of years of age, they will give you an allocated amount until your death. That's your pension. They give you a certain amount of money to feed you after your forceful retirement at 65. You are not legally allowed to work after the age of 65. So you are basically forced into retirement, and afterwards you have to use the pension amount plus whatever savings you have for retirement to afford your life after 65. Guess what? People live until like 95. So that's basically 30 more years you're gonna have to count for. 30 more years. You can't work anymore. No one's gonna hire you, and it's illegal to hire people over the age of 65 for work. Oh my god. If you actually receive pension and you're receiving an income from somewhere else, you are actively evading taxes. You're gonna end up in prison. Well, just because you're old, you'll go to prison? I don't think so. Okay. That's how pensions work. Why should you have to start thinking about retirement and pensions? Because the older you get, the less time you have to save up, right? And once you get into the habit of having some money set aside, right? You're not spending all that money. You're actively, like, the only exception, like I said, is if you're living below the poverty line. So for Canada, I think below the poverty line is 35,000 Canadian dollars a year. So if you make your total income after taxes is $35,000 Canadian, right? A year, right at $35,000 is you living at the poverty line. So the minute you make $35,000 and $1, you're living above the poverty line. That $1, even it could be like $35,000.50. That's still above the poverty line technically. You. The thing is, if you are in you're saving money for your retirement because you're not gonna be able to make that much money, and when you're at a certain point in your life, your income, amount of income that you generate tends to reach its peak, right? Like people make most of the people who are financially stable by the time they're 40s, right? During that time, people don't actually worry about they don't worry about like going out to eat like every day for a week at that point in their life because they can afford it. But like, why is it important? Because you can't live off your pension money. That's enough for you to pay utilities. And most of the time what happens is people who have not enough money saved up. Look, if you saved up enough money to buy a house out of budget, how are you going to pay the property tax every year? How are you going to maintain it? You have to pay utilities. You're going to have to still purchase groceries, still have to clothes to buy, still have to do all that kind of stuff. So how are you gonna afford that if you spent every single penny buying a house? Who is going to like? It's not an excuse when you're like, I don't know, if you're 55 and you're like, I'm struggling to pay bills, people aren't gonna feel sorry for you. No one's really gonna help you out. Why? Because they expect that kind of stuff to happen when you're in your 20s. They're like, sometimes it's okay in your 30s if you just started your business, it didn't work out. So if that's what's happening, people are a lot more lenient towards people like that. I had a business, it just didn't work out. I didn't have enough customers for it, and like business was dying and had too many competitors and went belly up, right? It tastes like herbal medicine that I had to eat when I was a kid. It used to make me throw up. It tastes really bad. It makes me want to cry. But yeah, no, the pension is like really little. Like in Ontario specifically, if you're wondering, if you are qualified for government assisted finances such as disability, Ontario Disability Support, ODS, Ontario Disability Support something. I forget what the acronym stands for. But if you are like physically or mentally incapable of working for a period of time, then they allocate a specific amount of money for you to live off per month. It's not enough to live in Ontario, I have to be honest. It's like $1,000 and something a month Canadian. That's enough to pay. Most of it's gonna go into rent if you need to pay rent. It's not really enough for rent and utilities, and definitely not enough for food. That's if you're on Ontario welfare, as in Ontario Works. It's called Ontario Works, but it's welfare. It's different from province to province. It's a fraction of that. It's like $343 a month that they give you, just so that you don't starve. Like, we will give you this money so you can go and buy food. That's it. Like, it's only for buying food. In the case that you ever need clothes or something, like, I don't fucking know, like, you're gonna have to make do with something. You can check the donations bin at the community centers, or like um get donations. Some people go to Goodwill, thrift store, stuff like that. That's kind of like, who can live off that, honestly? I have no idea how people are able to do that. I am not. And I don't think that it's logistical. People who actually end up being on Ontario Works are people who have significant problems in life. Like they have problems or they have caused problems. Typically, this generally the assumption about people who are on Ontario Works, Ontario welfare. Some of them are pardoned felons, some of them are convicts. Those are the ones who receive these tax benefits per year because they don't get to work. And even though they are capable of being trained and working, there is currently not a job employment center open up for them to be working at, employed at. You can go to employment agencies and ask them if they can hire you or like get a job through an employment agency. I really wouldn't recommend it. Why? Because the employment agency takes a percentage of your earnings. And most companies hire directly. So the only reason you're using an employment agency is if you need somebody to verify that you are capable of working and there's somebody else working with you while you're employed. If you don't need somebody to help you out with that extra employment stuff, right? Like training you for interviews and helping you out scout better employment opportunities or learning how to like problem solve with your employer and your employees and other fellow coworkers or whatever. If you have problems with that or you're inexperienced with that, then I'd say use an employment agency. But if you already have been working if you're not qualified to be considered unemployed, as in you haven't been you haven't been receiving a salary for less than 6 months. Salary could be hourly or yearly. That's unemployed, okay? If that's the case for you, then I would really recommend using an employment agency because at the very least, they can vouch for you. They'll be able to say, yeah, this guy's okay. I know he seems a little sketchy, but he's fine. If anything happens, we'll be able to back it up or something. Like, we'll take some part responsibility for hiring this guy, for getting you to hire this guy. That's what they're for. Like, if you really need somebody to, like, honestly, it's gonna be hard for you to save money if you are living below the poverty line, right? Because you're living paycheck to paycheck. Some people make a lot of money, live paycheck to paycheck. They spend every single penny. It's called, I think, going bankrupt. No, but like, you should be saving some of your money that you earn if you're living above the poverty line. So let's say you make $35,000 and 50 cents a year. Every year you should be saving 50 cents. Yeah, that 50 cents extra you're making should be going to your savings. Even if it's just per year. I mean, I'm exaggerating here. Obviously, your income isn't going to be $35,000 and 50 cents. But, what? It's so bad. I'm gonna go. Okay, don't do this. If you are planning on retiring, you should have some money set aside so you can actually like afford bills, utilities. Like, let's say you managed to buy a house when you're like 50, right? Yes, I finally got a career going. I'm making enough money. I make like 60K a year. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to purchase a property so I can live there. And that property is worth like 500K, and property tax every year, I have no idea, it's like 13%. I'm pretty sure, something around there. So you're gonna have to pay that every fucking year for the property because you're saying you can afford to maintain said property. Because that property tax that you're paying goes into maintaining the area and the city that you're living in, right? So the city needs certain allocation budget from the property tax, right, that every person who lives in the city pays to maintain things in the city such as roads and traffic lights and transportation and these community services like libraries, community centers, and food banks and homeless shelters and what else is parks, maintaining parks, getting any services that require like government intervention, so like upkeeping recreation, garbage disposal, that kind of stuff. Like every week the garbage man that comes along to collect your garbage, paid for by your tax money that you're paying from your property tax. People pay the same percentage, so that's why it's fair. If you make more, or if you have more property, then you pay more. If you have less property, then you pay less, but it's the same percentage. Like 10% of $100 is $10, but 10% of $10 is 10 cents. It's the same amount, kind of, basically, but it's just ratio is equal, but there's greater amounts of it. So yeah, how are you? So if you retire at 65 and your house is worth 500K, hopefully the inflation and like it. Granted, there's no increase in prices or property values or anything, right? You are gonna have to pay for the maintenance of said property every year until your death, right? So you have not only enough saved up to purchase property, but to pay your taxes. And your foods and your groceries and entertainment, what other bills you may have. Spending money. See, yes, that's what retirement is. At 65, they're gonna force you to retire. You can't work anymore. I'm sorry, it's just you're physically incapable of working at the rate you were capable of working. You just gotta stress everyone out. Putting yourself and everyone else at risk. So like, okay, you can retire, just enjoy the rest of your life. At 65, you will be at rest and at peace until your death. Excuse me, basically. So, from 65 to 95, that's 30 years. You have 30 years worth of taxes and spending money and whatever other utility, like maybe your car breaks down, you have to take it to the mechanic. Maybe you need to fix something with your house or something. I don't know. Your property values goes up, and so is your property tax, which is a good thing for people who make a lot of money who can maintain that amount of money. Bad news for people who literally scrimped and saved all their money just to purchase that property, right? Ugh. So, please think about the retirement. You're gonna piss off your neighbors. In all honesty, because they're like, why did you buy this house? All of us make significantly more of an income than you. We're not actually struggling to be able to live here in this specific area. And because of it, since we're not struggling to live there, we can actually afford, we like it when the property values go up. Because that means if we sell the house, it'll be worth a lot more. It means the neighborhood in general is doing well. Like, that's a good thing. People want to live here now. Like, it's just valuable area now. We want that. We want it to be valuable. We're not doing all that work to make it go down, okay? We're making it go up. So, this is gonna be a problem with your neighbors if you literally spent every single penny just to live there. Like, how are you gonna maintain any of it? What, your lawn's gonna look dirty? You're gonna end up, like, having to show up at food banks here and there. People are gonna start questioning it. People are gonna be like, oh, how come you can't pay your bills this month? And like that alone, the crime rate and the poverty-stricken area is gonna drag the property value down for the rest of your neighbors, and they're gonna hate you for it for the rest of their life. That's bad. You don't want your property values to go down. You want your property values to go up. People don't want higher crime rates in their neighborhood. People want lower crime rates. We don't want crime. We want no crime. No, less crime, higher property values. Less money, people are gonna start doing weird stuff to get that extra cash. People are gonna start, like, I don't know what you call it, like, cutting corners. There you go. Can cause problems. You know, like, what, you're gonna skip on your bill, you're gonna pay your bills with, like, stolen cash, or, like, start, like, pawning off all your goods, start showing up at pawn shops, pawn stores. People are gonna know where you live. They're like, oh, you live in a really nice area, why are you pawning all your stuff? The word's gonna get out, reputation's gonna be at stake. What are you doing? Yeah, no, look, there are people who care about things and others, and you don't want to be against those people who care about things and others. Okay? I'm very antisocial. The point is, no one's gonna, like, if you actually get in with your neighbors and you are so good friends with them that even if you go through financial hardships, they're willing to help you out because they like having you live there, right? They want you to live there, they like having you as a neighbor, then that means that they're gonna do something to help you out here and there, right? Like, only if you're going through actual significant hardship. If you're continually going through significant hardship, then they're gonna start asking questions. They're gonna be like, that's a little weird. I thought you just lost your job like a year ago. You're telling me you just got laid off again? But this is like the 5th time in the last 10 years that I've known you. It's a little weird. Oh, I'm watching this guy. I think he's never left Europe and he's never like actually met East Asian people, so he can't really like distinguish the difference between. He can't really tell if people are related or not. But to be fair, I have noticed that he has a very hard time reading facial expressions. So facial recognition is very hard for this person. He doesn't understand. I don't know why that is, but a lot of people have this problem. Like, it's not, it seems racist, but it's because like they kind of like, when you're exposed to so much faces, you have a good idea of picking up who's related to who and what's going on with what. But when you don't meet a lot of people, like you only know like what, 30, 40 people in your entire life, you've only seen in your life, in reality, in person, right? Like maybe 300 people, right? You're not gonna have enough to go on to understand the facial recognition and who's related to who and what that is. He doesn't know what adoption or fostering is. I think that's the problem. I don't want to tell him. It's just like a whole thing. Why do people adopt? How come they give up their kids up for adoption? Why are they foster? Look, he doesn't understand that wars happen and there's been civil unrest. Some people come from really bad backgrounds. Some women get raped and get pregnant. They give those kids up for adoption. I don't know, sometimes during the pregnancy the relationship doesn't work out, and during that time they can always opt for adoption too. I mean, I guess he was lucky to be in a relatively stable background, and I guess he doesn't meet a lot of people who aren't exactly like him, so it kind of like, yeah, I can't say it, I can't. It's not just that person, but a lot of people who have this problem. they can't understand this concept. The difference between fostering and adoption processes, and why do people adopt and foster, and why are their kids available for adoption and fostering and stuff. Sometimes the parents are fine, but throughout their life they made pretty bad decisions for whatever reason. And it's kind of, like getting in debt, it's built up on them over time. And there's no way they could realistically raise a child. There's no way. This is like they have too much debt, or like they're too much. They don't have any time for it, or they don't have enough people supporting them to be able to handle the stresses of child rearing. So that's where that whole thing comes. Is why people choose to put their kids up for adoption. Again, a lot of discrimination assumptions with that too, but it's so sad. Also, there's I don't know. Um, just to say, you know what? If you're an adopted kid or a foster kid, don't be surprised that you're having a hard time finding a more stable financial background or like a job or something. Like, again, with that, it's like, ugh. And also, if your parents are making that much money, it's most likely you're not going to be end up making more than you should be. According to recent research statistics, oh my god, look at my hair. um, the kids are supposed to be making more money than their parents if everything is going as it should be. So like, whatever money your parents are making, you should be able to make more than that. But it doesn't always go like that, okay? It's not your fault, and sometimes some people miss critical points in their development. And, you know, it impacts them later on in life. Yeah. Okay, so please learn to budget and finance, and you won't end up actually like leeching off other people when you get to a point in life where you actually need some help. This is where it really helps for you to, expand your horizons, get to know your neighbors, get to know your family and friends, build good relationships with people, be acquainted with different types of people, maybe even have more than one source of income going. That always helps, especially if you're at a higher income bracket. That's what most people do. Yeah, some people do like that. Like how people have like a bunch of businesses that have, like, let's say a person's like main job is a landlord. They actually have like stock options, and they are actually supporting like other businesses that way. So like they're shareholders or stockbrokers or something, and then they also do like that kind of stuff part time. Ugh, that just for something gross. Um, and then yeah, all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of where they get most of their income from. This is actually what a lot of wealthy people do, which is they have their main business. Let's say like I'm a small business owner and I own a clothing store, and I'm doing pretty well. People go there, I have enough traffic for me to be able to feed myself and for my things, my daily living expenses. and I want to take up a new hobby, or like I want to buy a new car, that's when I actually start expanding my horizons and looking into investing into different businesses, right? So whatever, let's I am a small business owner at a clothing store, and then I decide to expand into a second store. And when that store is doing well, then at least I can use that earnings from that store to pay for my personal expenses, such as I get a new car now, or like if somebody wants to like get into I don't know, like what's it, like they have a hobby that they really like, right? So like they end up like doing things to make money for said hobby. So like I don't know, if I'm a horticulturist and I really like growing plants in greenhouses or whatever, and I need money to maintain that hobby, then as a small business owner, I could always get into stock options, and it'll have enough money over time for me to be able to support it or maintain my hobby. Or I don't know, like I don't know what. So many business out there. You can start selling your merchandise. Maybe you can like start providing services. Like I don't know if you're gonna have time for it. That's the thing. But that's what most people do. That's how they make their money. So like most of the daily living expenses are from their main business. You know, my small business. And then if I want to get into a hobby, or if I want to like start like an extra expenditure that I can't afford without like kind of struggling, they start another business or something. Yeah, they open up another store, or like they get into different businesses, or like, oh, now I'm just like selling things online, or like I'm just like I'm doing translator work online. It's for extra cash, so I can use that. I'm gonna save up the money that I make online, extra cash, to fund my hobbyist collection of bikes. I like dirt bike riding. I love going on dirt bikes. You know, this is a new hobby that I want to get into, but I need money to get into. I need to buy a dirt bike. I need to buy those dirt bike passes or whatever. Is extra gas money and food. Yeah, so whatever I make off the translator thing, I save up and I spend on my dirt biking. Because I like doing those things. That's what that's for.